Accessing library computer data.
The world doesn't always adhere to logic. And sometimes when you're lost, you're found.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. We are continuing our Discovery short trek coverage here. We're going to be talking about the short trek called Calypso. It's the second one out of the four that they're going to do. It aired on November 8th, 2018. This is the second of four produced. Teleplay goes to Michael Chabon. Story credit goes to Sean Cochran and Michael Chabon. Directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi. After waking up in an unfamiliar sickbay, Kraft finds himself aboard a deserted ship, and his only companion and hope for survival is an AI computer interface. We're joined by Clay, as always. Clay, how are you? Welcome to the second of the short treks after Runaway, the first one was Runaway, and neither of us were particularly enamored with that one. It was about a 30-minute podcast of us going, that was okay, in various ways that you can say that was okay. So now we have our first one, Calypso, the first piece of writing written by their new writer, Michael Chabon, who is the best known as their sort of like their Pulitzer winner at this point. He wrote a book called The Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, which won the Pulitzer. And he is their Picard writer now at this point. He's joined the Picard writing staff, but this is his first Star Trek episode to his credit. So, well, how are you anyway, first and foremost?
I'm good. I'm pleasantly surprised that they managed to resist the urge to use any Harry Belafonte music in this episode.
We've got a stare for days. But anyway, we're going to take a break and play an audio clip real quickly because I did collect one, so I might as well put one into this material. So we'll be back in a couple seconds.
I'm sorry.
Croft, you weren't doing anything wrong. I'm not really a person. You know that. It doesn't mean anything.
Liar.
All right, Clay. So I talked enough about Calypso. What do you lead us off with this one? What'd you think of this short and how it stands on its own and how it compares to the previous one that we watched?
Well, I liked it a lot more than the last one. For something that was more or less the same setup, where you basically had two characters talking to each other for 20 minutes, I thought this one was a lot more engaging. I thought it was a lot more, I thought it was a lot less on the nose as far as what it was about and what the point of it was. It actually reminded me a lot of a couple things. It reminded me of the beginning of Prometheus, where it's Michael Fassbender as the robot David, who's basically been awake while everybody else is in stasis, and he's just been like dicking around in the ship for like 100 years or however long it takes them to get where they're going. Yeah. And he's developed an affinity for Lawrence of Arabia. Mm-hmm. And so he starts copying the look of that, and he kind of makes himself look like Peter O'Toole and that kind of thing. And later on in this episode, it reminded me of bits of Blade Runner 2049. Some of the best stuff in Blade Runner, actually. Have you seen that yet?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
They have this really great relationship with Ryan Gosling's character and this basically Siri jacked up to 11 called Joy, and she's sort of this like holographic partner, more or less. And they really go into some cool areas as far as like what their relationship is and how they interact and stuff. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of that, but I saw, before we started, excuse me, I saw someone on the Discord say that one of the problems that they found with it, I don't know if they read this somewhere, I don't know, is that...
I think it's Nick's comment that he had read somewhere. He hadn't seen it yet, but I'm going to cut you off by saying he had read this criticism somewhere.
Yeah, he said that it was good, but it was not explicitly something that it wasn't. It could have been any sci-fi. It wasn't explicitly Star Trek. Mm-hmm. And I could definitely see why that would be the case. feel like maybe that's nitpicking, and that comes from the person who doesn't think that City on the Edge of Forever is the best Star Trek episode because it's not explicitly a Star Trek story. But I think when you get down to those sorts of splitting hairs, I think that stuff matters. In this case, I don't necessarily think that matters. So I'll stop there and send it back to you.
Yeah, well, I think that I don't know if I want to answer that now, or I feel very strongly that that doesn't matter here. Mostly because my counter to that would be this takes place on the Discovery, which is a canon Star Trek ship, and it deals with the human condition, which is kind of a Star Trek thing to do in sci-fi. I mean, not to cut in, but it's like you could level that same argument against The Visitor from Deep Space Nine. You know, that's not a story that is necessarily explicitly a Star Trek story. Yeah, well, I think to further flesh it out, the criticism I saw in reviews, if not criticism, they sort of bring it up as maybe like potential criticism if they don't outwardly say it. They were like, this doesn't advance anything in the Star Trek lore. So it feels a bit... It
disagree.
It feels a bit... Their argument is it feels a bit disconnected because of that. And my point is, the reason Discovery is so hamstrung is because they're so obsessed with honing in and connecting it to the original trilogy or the original series. Right. So it's like, at a certain point, the series needs to stand on its own, and you have to do stuff that is not connected to the rest of Star Trek. Like, there's no reason that you constantly have to bring up character names and things that happened and events that happened and other ships, and I don't need to see all this stuff. I feel this fits comfortably into Star Trek. It is a episode or a concept that is clearly not concerned with continuity in the sense that you kind of know that the Discovery has to be okay at the end of the series. You know what I mean? But I thought it was really good. I thought it was by far the best thing that Discovery has given us so far.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
And it takes everything that goes wrong with what Discovery does and it kind of flips it. It's much more cinematic. They don't explain a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff is left open-ended for you to draw your own conclusions about what's happened or what's going on. It feels much more literary than anything. Obviously, the big literary influence is the Odyssey, because Calypso is the nymph that Odysseus gets married to for 7 years on the island, and then she is forced to let him go.
I didn't even know that. So.
Yeah, so this is almost a direct...
Because I'm much more well-watched than I am well-read, unfortunately.
So I remembered that Calypso is from the Odyssey. I did not remember, but what the actual story is. Calypso is a nymph who is cursed with living in solitude, except every 100 or 1,000 years or something, some mortal will come along and she'll fall in love with them, and then they'll be forced to leave. And Odysseus is the one that does that for his story. He falls away, lives with her for 7 years. So that's the point of this. And that's why it's called Calypso. But I thought it was more literary than anything else. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good short. It was a good concept and a good execution of the short. I would say that you could almost argue that it was too short and they could have stretched it out for another 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think so. I think it, I was just going to say, it does, I now knowing that it has that literary tradition behind it, it makes it a lot more akin to the original series, but it would be even more so if they had named it like Lady Macbeth or something.
Right.
Yeah, I think I would disagree with the person who said that it doesn't add anything to the Star Trek lore, because I think it adds quite a bit, actually. I think what you're saying is true, where they don't explain a lot of it, but they do put some interesting things in front of you, like the
humans have forgotten about their ancient past is one very interesting thing.
Yeah, and the Discovery has been just sitting there for 1,000 years inexplicably, and that there's some sort of war going on, which apparently seems to be between humans.
Humans.
Are the people that he's fighting, is his planet fighting Earth?
They don't call them Earthlings. They have an alien name for them, but the aliens watch Betty Boop. Like they're like preservers of ancient history or something. Yeah.
You have to extrapolate that means that his enemy is Earth, right?
I think that's
unless they're
logical.
watching it in the original Klingon, much like Shakespeare.
Yeah, you have two options, I guess. They're either Earthlings or they're a culture that has like conquered Earth and taken the ancient DVDs that we've kept around forever.
Yeah.
But
Or it's one of those alien races from like the 80s movies that are just like super hip and really like weird esoteric Americana.
Well, they put a bunch of stuff into Voyager, didn't they? When they launched those things, they put in like the top 40 record at the time and stuff. Yeah.
It's just they just love Glenn Miller or whatever they put on that record.
So, I mean, but that's there's a lot of little details like that. And he doesn't remember ancient Earth history. I really like the line about, she's like, oh, it's Taco Tuesday. Tacos are a meat product that's wrapped in a carbohydrate. And he goes, that's great, but what is
Yes.
it, Tuesday?
Yeah.
Which is a very good bit. I thought that this, for all the stuff about adding to I don't know if you wanted to continue your adding to the lore, I would agree with you that it's interesting that they punted something so far down the line that if you do care about continuity, you kind of have to build towards it, yet there's a lot of room to build towards it if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And they didn't do anything that necessarily contradicts, or there's no reason Star Trek ever needs to get to this 33rd century. They never need to go that far ahead, I don't think, if they don't want to. But it's a neat little enigmatic mystery, sort of, or it's very interesting to see it and have the episode reveal what's been going on, and that there's enough information there that you don't feel that you're left in the dark, but there's not so much that you feel that there's like there needs to be more explanation about what's going on. Like they positioned it very well. I feel very happy with where it is, and I don't need to question or think about it any more than it actually is. But I thought it was better than Runaway in virtually every facet. I thought that the idea works as a short. It could have been longer, in my opinion. It works as a 2-person play, basically. Mm-hmm. And it works because it's like finally Discovery, they did it by basically not ripping off, but they did it by borrowing heavily from literary tradition. But it's an episode that's actually about something. And I liked your point about how tying it in like this actually makes it feel more like TOS than anything else because of how the homage is coming through. But I thought that the episode being about something was something that Discovery has never managed to do. Even Runaway, the other short, was like not seizing the moment of what a short could be. And this was actually about the human condition, about like falling in love with an AI. I was thinking of Ex Machina was my inspiration here. And it's good. I just thought it was really strong.
Yeah. I liked that stuff. I thought it was really good. I will say though, if I had to give it one, no, I guess not negative isn't the word. Maybe it kind of is. My one strike against it would be that though it was well done and the story was engaging, it is a very common story in sci-fi right now. Like you said, Ex Machina, I was saying Blade Runner did it. Prometheus did some of this. That movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix is about him falling in love with his phone, basically. Yep. As this, and I mean, that doesn't mean it's not topical, because it is, because as these things get more and more advanced, I do find it funny and accurate that it's primarily men that are falling in love with their phones, and it's never women, which makes a lot of sense. It's I would say I don't know if it necessarily brought anything new to the equation.
No, it didn't. I don't think.
But I think as far as the stories they've told in the show with this format, I think it's definitely better than the last short, and it's, like you said, it's probably better than most of, if not everything, they did in the first season, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it also, just to kind of go back to just briefly to the extrapolating out what the world is here. It's really well done world building, because world building doesn't need to be 20-minute, extended monologues about what's going on or what's happening or where things have come from. You just need a couple details in the right place that you can go, oh, and then your brain jumps off from there and fills it in, or it fills in the possibility of what that stuff means.
And it comes about organically too. The information is revealed organically, as opposed to somebody coming in and saying like, this is the situation now.
Yeah, like the What's Tuesday thing, great example. But the thing that's really interesting to me about it is that it is fairly the main arc of this story is a positive one and a hopeful one. However, if you look at the story and if you look at the world it's being told in, it's actually very cynical and very not what you would hope the future in Star Trek would be.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, because the ship is Discovery is just apparently adrift. No one has seemed to bump into it recently. You've got apparently if we're extrapolating that the humans are the people he's fighting or the Earthlings are the people he's fighting, that means that that plus the fact that Discovery is adrift means that the Federation is probably doesn't exist anymore. Yep.
And that 1,000 years in the future, despite everything they've worked towards, everything the Federation has worked towards, it's still people fighting people.
Yeah, and it seems to have devolved, if anything, because a lot of people are dying. Kraft tells us it doesn't seem like his ship has warp capability, or maybe it does, but it's broken. The technology doesn't seem super advanced at this point. Like it's not he is not far and away beyond, almost to the point where it's funny that he doesn't come aboard Discovery and mention how primitive the ship is. So it leads me to think that maybe technology hasn't evolved all that far because he seems to be sort of stuck at that timeline. But yeah, it's for as hopeful as it is, and you get the sense that what happens to him on this ship is actually a break from the real world. Like it's a nice little vacation that happens to him. He's happy to sit there and eat popcorn and watch these movies, and he doesn't know what his world will bring because he's been in stasis for 10 years. He doesn't know what happened to his wife and his kid or anything. But he knows that he doesn't know who won the war, if the war is over, if it's still going on. So it's a lot of, you get a sense it's a reprieve for him. It's a nice sort of break from everything else that's going on. And apparently is this horrible universe at that point.
Yeah. And, it falls right in line with as you've explained, the segment of the Odyssey is that he's there, and once he kind of gets into it, he's kind of happy to be there for a while, but then eventually something pulls him out of it and he has to leave. Yeah.
In the Odyssey, it's the gods get involved, and in this one, it's a little bit more Star Trek. It's his family. He needs to get back to them. But I thought your point about it not being profound was good. I sort of had the same. I'm of two minds because I think that as a short, it maybe doesn't need to be really as honed in or razor sharp as the other movies like Ex Machina or the new Blade Runner about this stuff. Like it's not really, it doesn't have the time to focus on that. So I can't really hold it against it that it doesn't say anything new whatsoever. It does feel a little bit cliche at this point, but dealing with the fact that it's basically a 15-minute short, I'm not sure how much I should punish it for that. I thought it was well done enough and it was well made enough where it doesn't really distract me or draw my attention away from the thinking that is of high quality. But I do agree that that's my other 10-minute thing. Like I could have done with a whole nother 10 minutes of them sort of slowly falling in love, because I think that the pace of it, while it's slow, it's just the timing of the episode doesn't really allow you to sink into the fact that they're in love at this point. You kind of know that it's going in that direction, but it doesn't feel like they built to it too well. And that's a very nitpicky criticism on my part.
Right. I mean, if they wanted to make it explicitly Star Trek based, the at the end when she says, "Will you tell me your name?" he would have been like, "My name is Christopher Barclay." Or possibly William LaForge or something.
Yeah, George LaForge.
Before I leave, could you play the Leah Brahms program for me? Oh, wait, she wouldn't be alive at that point. That's right.
No, there would be the answer. He'd say that he's like Noonien Soong's long-lost cousin or something from a different mother. Yeah, they avoid that. And maybe it's just Discovery. I enjoyed stepping away from the cast and crew that we know to this point. Yeah. It was nice to get a little bit of a refresher. This guy Kraft, who was, I thought the acting and directing in this was really well done. He's pretty good. I wouldn't say he did a great job, but I thought he was very effective. I thought it was really well directed. A lot of great camera work going on in these ones.
Yeah, I think so too. I really like that scene where they had I mean, at this point, it's an easy trick to do, but I thought it was pretty cool where they had just the multiples of him doing different stuff in the break room.
Yeah.
To present the passage of time and of him just milling around and stuff. And I thought lots of stuff like that worked really well. I mean, it's honestly, I hate to keep running down this show because I really want to like it, but it's like it was a level of visual storytelling that you don't get from the show.
Yeah.
Generally, like even something as simple as, the first time he sits down to eat and then they kind of do like a wipe and they kind of pan back over and he's got a whole bunch of plates that are empty in front of it. Like that kind of stuff. That's not storytelling that you really get out of the show. It's subtle. It's it's refined, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And,
it's not dialogue based. Not dialogue based is a huge difference. Yeah.
You don't have people explaining shit while they're running down a hallway, which is unfortunately how I remember most of that show. But yeah, I thought it was, did Chabon, he worked on Spider-Man 2, right? I think.
Did he?
I think he worked on, he either wrote the first draft or did a rewrite of the second Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, which, for my money is one of the best, superhero movies that has ever been made. So clearly he's got a handle on the writing thing when it comes. He did do
Spider-Man 2. He did John Carter, Spider-Man 2. Those are the two that are popping up immediately for me.
Yeah, I haven't seen John Carter, but I've heard it's actually pretty good. That would be an interesting movie to cover at some point because I think the fascinating, not to go complete tangent, but I think the fascinating thing about John Carter is it's one of those things where by the time they got around to adapting it, all of the things that made it special had become part and parcel of other things.
Yeah.
That it had influenced. So by the time you get to John Carter, you present John Carter in the 21st century, it seems very old and it doesn't really seem very special. Same with the Lone Ranger, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's at the very least, it gives me hope that is he working on season 2 of the show?
No, he's on the Picard series.
Well, it gives me hope for the Picard show. It kind of bums me out that he's not working on this show, but it gives me hope for the Picard show.
Yeah, I just thought it was, because I do think that the big difference here is the writing, because the director of this worked on season 1. And while I don't remember any specific episodes that person did, I feel the big difference here is just the writing. And I guess I'll hone in on it for a while. Like it's not dialogue driven. It's subtle. Right. And it is not like, it doesn't have Stamets running in to tell you that this episode is about a man falling in love with an AI and what could that possibly mean for the nature, like the state of humanity and everything. Like there's a level of, they don't even really touch on it. Like it's something that happens and you are left to draw your own conclusions about whether or not it even is about that, or if it's about just humans being lonely, or if it's about people actually falling in love with an AI, or if it's about anything like that. It's subtle, it is nuanced, and it is not so specific that you just kind of roll your eyes at what they're doing in front of you. It felt much more, I'll say it again, it just felt more literary. It felt like there was more interpretation that you could do as a viewer, and it felt like it respected the audience's intelligence. Yeah,
there was no moment where, where the theme was rolled out on a 20-foot banner and placed behind the actors as they
Kraft
were
never says,
scene.
I can't fall in love with an artificial intelligence. Like that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and it's never explicitly, I mean, I don't even know if he's explicitly ever falling in love with her as a being as much as maybe just the place that he's in. I think she's probably falling in love with him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's going both ways. I was kind of surprised that they didn't play up the aspect of her doing the thing where she's like, well, I mean, I can't fall in love with you. I'm a machine. That's not how this works.
Yeah. Well, she does it at the end to spare his feelings, which is interesting.
Yes.
So I'm inclined to believe that she feels more for him than he feels for her. He is more grateful about her saving his life than she is about the sort of needing companionship because she's been alone for so long.
Yeah, I think it's, similar to the Odyssey thing, where he's going out of his way to do something for her, but in doing that, he's sort of falling into this artificial reality.
Yeah.
And, he has to then pull himself back out and, remember what the real world is and go back to his real family and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I thought it was good. I don't really.
My question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess we can maybe end with this. I don't know if you have anything else you want to say, but do you think that anything from this is going to come back in the second season?
No, I don't think so.
Because part of me thought maybe, it's an interesting choice to go that far into the future and present this war that we don't see anything else of. Where I hope that they don't, because I really liked the just snippet of a future time where this stuff is happening. But I wonder if there isn't some sort of, if not even direct involvement of this future somewhere in the second season.
Someone I saw online put the sort of maybe not rumor, but the theory that his the tattoo that's on his back that the computer uses to identify where he's from. Mm-hmm. They thought it bore a similarity to the red lights that are in the trailer for season 2. Those red lights that they're hunting that look like an angel.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. That seems kind of a stretch to me. I thought
seems like a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I thought they just did it just to a shorthand for a way to identify him, and I didn't see that much of a similarity besides the fact that angels and birds have wings. But that would be the only thing. I would prefer not. I thought that the reason it succeeded is because of how separate it is from everything, and I like the fact that Discovery did not hammer in some weird tie-in to 1,000 years ago by explaining, back in TNG season 3 when they set off some subatomic particle thing, this happened in this timeline. I'm glad they avoided all that stuff and it stands alone as its own thing.
Yeah, I guess what makes me skeptical that they might have some sort of tie-in is that the first episode, while that creature doesn't seem like it's going to come back, it is about Tilly, doing whatever. And then it looks like the next one is going to be about Saru. And maybe it looks like it might be something about him before he joined Starfleet or something.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what it is, yeah.
And those are obviously two stories featuring two characters who are in the show, who's knowing this about them will, I'm losing my words here. Knowing this stuff about them, will flesh out their character when you going forward in the second season. So it would be a little weird it wouldn't surprise me if something from this episode comes back, whether or not maybe it has something to do with the computer.
Yeah, maybe they're building that AI, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe it has something to do with the future timeline. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. Discovery
did not have a computer voice, right? It didn't have
I didn't think so.
So maybe is this AI just the evolution of all these starships talking when they say computer in the earlier series?
Yeah, I guess so. Well, it's just another one of those things where it's like, why didn't they just set the show in the friggin' future? Because this AI that runs the Discovery is more advanced than any other version they've had in any version of Star Trek up to this point.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's like, well, what are we doing?
I don't know. No.
Clearly they don't. I guess they don't care anymore. I don't know. Who knows?
That's a good point. And the fourth short is about Harry Mudd. So that's another character that we know. But we'll see. We'll see if this ties in. It would be weird if this was the one. I don't know what the inspiration for doing one that doesn't tie in would have been. I would have gone either 50-50 or split it even more than that. But
well, do you think Harry Mudd's coming back? Is he coming back in the second season?
Probably, right? He exists in TOS, so he's got to survive until then. So he probably will pop up at some point.
Cool.
Yep, that'll be good. That'll be good. Anyway, that's about it. It's Calypso. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I thought it was an interesting short. And you seem to be the same way, Clay. I thought it was much better than the first one. I thought it's probably the best thing that Discovery has done to this point, and I was pleased by it. I watched it a couple times, and the second time, it's actually the second time I watched it was interesting. I actually picked up on all these small little bits that I missed the first time about just like the world building that we talked about. I noticed that more the second time. I thought it was nicely subtle in how they inserted it, but I thought it was good. I thought it was a very strong entry in Discovery's canon to this point. So I thought it left me looking forward to at least see what comes after this.
Yeah, I hope that the internet takes a hold of this episode and makes some sort of variation of cutting where when he goes into the bridge and she wants to show him something, all of the strange things you could cut onto that screen instead of funny face or funny girl or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like it's just, he goes in and she's like, this is my favorite piece of media. And it's just like an Yngwie Malmsteen guitar solo or something. And he's like, well, at least it's not Betty Boop.
What the fuck is Betty Boop?
Or it's just like it's any 5 minutes from any episode of The Big Bang Theory, something like that.
I watched, I tweeted about it. I watched there was like a new video for, it's not Vi. Who's the famous guitar player?
The famous guitar player?
Like the technical one. It's not, is it Vi? Is it?
Steve Vai, Joe Satriani.
It's not Satriani. Let me see if it's Steve Vai. It might be. Yes, it is Steve Vai. Okay. I watched some horrible some music video from him came up on my YouTube feed for some reason. It was if that had been cut into, I think it would have made my day potentially just because of how horrible that music video is. It's called Dark. Let me look this up just so I know. Steve Vai.
It could be that clip from the Insane Clown Posse video when they're like, fucking magnets, how do they work?
Yeah. It's called the Dark Matter music video. Look it up. It is horrible, and it's really, really something to watch. I'm sure if you're into Steve Vai, I'm sure you don't really care about what his music videos look like, but this thing was spectacular to watch. It's very entertaining. I
think heavy metal music video is a lost art, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What's the?
They're all the same shit now. Where it's What's that?
Well, I only think of like Mastodon videos. That's the most recent metal video I can really think that I've seen.
Yeah, they're all the same thing. Where it's like everybody's wearing leather, playing music in like a foundry or something, or a desert, and like the camera's just swinging back and forth, and it's like it's all the same shit. What happened to the old ones, like the Queensryche videos, where they all come out of like a pod and start having like a laser battle with people?
Or it's this is Spinal Tap, where the bassist gets stuck in the pod and he can't get out of it.
Yeah. There's no heavy metal has lost that like dark fun. It feels like it's also it's kind of like wrestling, in that in the years since the 80s. It's become more realistic in that the theatrics of it seem to not be there as much. I mean, if you go to a live show, the theatrics are very much still there. But like as far as the presentation in general, I feel like it's a lot more streamlined. It's a lot more, everybody, all the guys in all these bands look the same now, where they all got, scraggly hair and wear dark sunglasses and like cowboy hats and shit.
It's
there's no like Motley Crue out there. Like Motley Crue now looks exactly like every other band that's out there now.
Yeah.
All these other, metal bands.
Yeah.
So, and bring back Satan. There's not enough Satan in rock and roll anymore.
Do you know the band Ghost?
I do.
I really like Ghost, but there's like the problem with that eventually is that if a band's shtick is like very much an act, like if it's very much an like beyond just sort of the like we're the bad boys of rock and roll kind of a rock and roll shtick, like if they Ghost thing is that they're like the singer is like a priest for the devil basically, and that the band are like demons that play along with them. And at a certain point, even if I like the music a lot, I feel that you can't emotionally connect with it on any level because of how fake it all is. Like it's so goofy that you can't really connect. I have that problem with Ghost. I really like their music, but it's never going to like resonate with me because I don't actually believe that Satan is going to be reborn and on the world or anything like that.
You mean you don't shed a tear every time you listen to Beth by Kiss?
I shed a tear.
Ghost is one of those bands where I really want to like them, but I do not like that singer. I don't think his voice matches the music or the look.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's never really clicked with me.
Yeah. I think we're done. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. Thank you very much. If you like the show, you can check out all the social media, Facebook, Twitter. Those are the generic ones you can go to. The Discord is the one that matters. You can check out the channel there. People talking about Star Trek and other things. You go to patreon.com/the Pensky File if you want to support the show. A couple $2 a month gets you extra stuff. And then I think that's pretty much it. Rate and review the show on iTunes. Use your iPhone. If you have an iPhone, that's the easiest way to do it. And as always, we thank our $10 patrons on Patreon. It goes to a big thank you. Goes to Stephen Cobb, Eric Johnson, Jay Stanley, David K, Nick Sergi, Nathan Elliott, Michael Pond, Matthew Cutler, Will Yates, Matt Flores, Samuel Custer, Santos Gonzalez, Robert Cummins, Andrew Cherlog, Spinobi, Russ Graham, Decker Sebastiani, Neil Brennan, Bradley Killens, Mike Burnett, Matthew Ross, Ben Douglas, Cal Barrett, Joint Mango, Tarek Latif. Guys, thank you very much. Let us know what you thought about Calypso. Clay, do you have anything you want to say before we go, or do you have any other heavy metal thoughts?
Poser 3 is in stores right now, and if you've received your Batman the Animated Series Blu-ray set, or hell, even if everybody talking about it's the 25th anniversary, you started rewatching it again, why not give a listen to the Badass podcast where me and Sean Murphy talk about Batman?
Yeah, check out Badass. There'll be links to it on the probably in the video description if you're listening there. And then that's about it. Sean and Clay did a good job covering the newly remastered, although it wasn't remastered at the time you did it, the newly remastered Batman, which I still haven't seen because goddamn Warner Brothers fucked up that thing so badly that my digital codes are in standard definition.
Yeah, I can't believe that. That's like, I mean, I can believe it. I feel like it's one of those things where they were like, nobody's going to use these things. Just give them the fucking standard ones. No one's going to give a shit.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. It's one of those things. It's like, make the codes work on Amazon. I know they like Voodoo for whatever reason, but like, I'm never going to be in the Voodoo.
Yeah,
just give it to me on Amazon.
Who uses Voodoo?
What's that?
Who uses Voodoo?
I only did it because I recently went through all my DVDs and pulled out the codes and typed them in just to see what would happen. But I've never used it to watch anything other than my standard definition Batman episodes. So that's about it.
Do all those codes still work? Because I've got a bunch of those too, and they all expire after a while, which is preposterous.
No, mine expired in 2015, and they all still worked. So
oh shit,
it must just be some bullshit that they tell you because it all still came through for me.
Yeah. I'll have to check out and see if I can still get my digital downloads of the first season of True Detective.
We'll have to do coverage on that one. My most overrated show I think that I've ever encountered in life. That's about it. I know we had friends who really enjoyed that show. I did not enjoy that, especially. I enjoyed it while it was happening.
What's not one of the most overrated first seasons? Haunting of Hill House on Netflix. Great fucking show.
Is it? Yeah.
Great show.
Yeah, we'll have to. I keep scrolling past it, but I've never actually started to go into it. But I guess I should. I should take. I need a horror series to come in.
Well, you've got so much free time. You may as well do something with
I know, honestly. Guys, thank you very much. Clay, thanks for giving me your thoughts about Calypso.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And guys, we'll be back. I have my review of Fallen Heroes, the DS9 book. Spoiler, it was fucking terrible, so I'm going to have a video about that. And after that, we're going to have The Muse, which will be the next DS9 episode.
Are these widely available? Are these on the regular channel, the reviews of these books? Because I need to listen to one.
It'll be on the YouTube channel. I've only done this one. It's been a long time. I've been working on it for a little bit or thinking about like what I want to talk about. But it'll go up in a couple days.
No, I'm looking forward to that.
Guys, thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next time.